I'm back from Combo Breaker, and I'm going to dive into a couple stories you may have heard about throughout the week and a couple you may have missed. But let's start with the older millennial. So if you haven't been on TikTok at all, you may not have heard of this gentleman, but this is Jeff Redden. He goes by the name of the older millennial. He's a political content creator, primarily with a conservative bend. He talks a lot about conservative culture war issues. You know the whole playbook. He is down to the T, a social media pundit that we've seen on Twitter or everywhere, but he is pretty big on TikTok with about 1 million followers. He frequently likes to stir up shit on TikTok, saying controversial things to camera, pleading to reactionaries, starting fights with people who are left-leaning, like Good Trouble. You understand this content model very well at this point. So he recently had a twofer that I kind of want to talk about. Number one, he posted a video talking about Trump's crowd size in the Bronx, showing this picture, saying, hey, do you see the massive support Donald Trump has in the Bronx and how he's clearly just crushing it? The silent majority coming out. I can't show you the original video because he took it down, because that's not Trump's crowd size, that's Obama. It was an Obama rally in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a famous Obama rally in St. Louis, Missouri, because around this time, there were images like this crowd coming out that showed, oh man, it seems like the Sarah Palin thing really backfired on McCain and Obama is a star. It was a huge narrative. Multiple content creators stitched this, and he obviously felt shitty about it, so he took the whole fucking thing down. Can't find videos of it anymore, but I can find videos of this because a few days later, he was on TikTok Live. And if you haven't been on the TikTok Live side of things, every time you scroll through a few videos after the 15th fucking product video you see, you'll casually just see a live stream. Somebody's in the middle of a live stream. And what a lot of frequent creators will do is they'll post a controversial opinion, so you get into a debate or you click out and you start talking to them. Everything like Drake won, Kendrick's a bitch, Israel is right, fuck Palestine, anything to get you to click off and engage. And here was the older millennial right there, ready to start some shit. Ready to do the whole Trump over Biden thing, let's debate. And during this live stream, he said a couple of choice things.
So I guess we've kind of reached an end point.
I'm perfectly fine with throwing mentally disabled people off a mountain.
All right.
I believe in the betterment of humanity. I don't think we should care.
Yeah, that's eugenics. And by the way, that's not out of context. He clarified.
People?
Yeah, I think people who are going to hold humanity back, we should eliminate them.
Can you define like hold humanity back?
Yeah, people who have met an IQ standard that they cannot support humanity or support a normal job or are mentally disabled.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this obviously sparked backlashes and stitches. Multiple people calling for him to apologize. Him doing the same bravado, not dumbing down, like, no.
So liberals will never let shit taken out of context go to waste. So you're about to see a ton of videos about me. You're not going to see that conversation was about abortion.
And this was a lie. The original conversation was about veganism.
You wouldn't feel bad for like throwing a mentally disabled person off a cliff. Like you could just go vegan. I don't understand why you're.
No,
like this is an insane bullet.
I'm like, you're going to be a burden on humanity. Off the rock you go.
And it seems like it has done a small amount of damage. I mean, he's not unscathed when he goes through these controversies because the views on his 2 latest videos are down. I can't definitively prove it's from that, but it's a little bit of a conspicuous timing kind of thing. And listen, like obviously the jump that he's making is absurd. Like listening to this guy make this jump, even in context of the way he condescendingly talks, and he is very condescending. I'm not gonna say there aren't leftists and left-leaning people who are condescending as well. Of course there are. There is a reason that left-leaning people are elitist is a stereotype. But this man is borrowing every page in the book from the Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, like, oh, I've lived through life and you haven't playbook. And with all due respect, I've seen your fucking LinkedIn, Jeff. You're not gonna give me a fucking Dead Poet Society level of life advice here. And looking at the statement and looking at the content, it's easy to get mad at this guy. It's very clear that it's rage bait and it doesn't really move the needle, but it starts a lot of shit. I talked almost about a month ago about debate content and how it doesn't really solve anything. this is like the sister to debate content because he knows it's insane. And if he doesn't, he knows he's talking shit because it upsets people. I bring this up because when we're in the middle of the chaos of this year, where we have a super important election, where we have horrific things happening in Gaza, when you have crazy things happening in Ukraine, when you have this entire cultural divide, this is the textbook example of a rage bait kind of grifter, somebody who revels in others' misfortune. And look, we can say a lot of things about Ben Shapiro. Yeah, owning the libs is part of their brand, but that owning the libs is to reinforce their own cultural insecurity. And this guy's is a little bit more mean-spirited, kind of in the vein of Ann Coulter and Sean Hant. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of people like this out there. I'm sure he's not the only one you know about that we need to just like not engage with. I was ready to kind of engage with this guy today when I wrote this story and start to go in on this motherfucker. I looked up a lot of information about him. Trust me, I know a lot about him right now. I don't care about it though. This is a controversy that continues on TikTok. This guy is going to make TikToks that are fucked up, that's horrific to disabled and neurodivergent people, that is essentially eugenics because he revels in other people being upset and being hurt. And he doesn't deserve the attention. This is an attention economy. This guy is bred and built for that attention economy. I know this because if you go to his Twitter page, again, I did a lot of research on this guy. He spent the first like fucking half of his existence on Twitter trying to shit talk everybody in football. He would consistently reply under posts, tough talking major people, football players he didn't fucking agree with, other liberals and political people. There's posts about him defending George Zimmerman. Like, bro, if we're going to engage with people in politics, which I do think that there is something there, it is okay to engage with people with diametrically opposing views and try to find a way forward. We have to do that in some sense. But when we talk about giving attention to bad people, this is that. This person doesn't want to find a way forward, and this motherfucker is not worth your fucking time. He's not worth anybody on TikTok's time. A lot of TikTok is like this. A lot of TikTok is filled with a lot of bluster that won't move the needle forward in any direction. Nobody's gonna watch a fucking older millennial video and be like, you know what? I'm gonna change my worldview on all of this and vote for Donald. Like, does he really believe that? Like, do you really believe that? Because I think that's more of a problem than anything. You have to format your content in a certain way for it to reach an audience that's convincible, and you have none of the hallmarks of that. Take it from somebody who's done this for longer than you. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up as an example because we are getting knee deep into this election at this point. We're about to hit summer. It's gonna get even worse than it is now. And a good thing to remember as we come up on the first debate, which is mad fucking early, ignore these fucking people. It's not a debate for you to have. It's like investing in fucking Truth Social stock or a fucking Bitcoin. It's not gonna go anywhere. It'll look like it'll go anywhere and then you'll lose all your fucking money. But let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, listen, I've been wanting to work with these guys again for a minute. Before we get to our next story, I want to shout out the sponsor of today's show, NordVPN. I've been using NordVPN for like 4 years. Like, I've been using them consistently, no sponsor, none of that, for 4 years because they've given me peace of mind while I am browsing the internet. I use them when I'm going to events like Evo. I use them to watch sporting events that are region locked. I use them when my ISP decides to filter traffic and make my connection slower randomly. And it comes at an especially important time because the amount of malicious actors on websites and the internet who are looking at what you're browsing, who are tracking you, the exposure you have to people with bad intentions is at an all-time high. And again, like I mentioned, while it's great that net neutrality has been passed, ISPs are still consistently throttling your data. A VPN changes all of that. It hides your IP and hides your activity away from prying eyes. It's an especially great tool to use in public spaces. Like, for example, I was a combo breaker this weekend. I use NordVPN consistently, both on my computer and my phone, because it has a quick way you can just generate a link and be on a VPN like that. It's a great cybersecurity tool against things like phishing and middleman attacks. Also, from the entertainment side of things, if there's a movie streaming in a different country that I'm paying the service for, but it's not available here, I can just switch over to that and watch that movie. Some streaming services crack down on it, not all of them though. And especially when working on big projects or transferring over sensitive information, it is a key tool that you need to make sure you feel secure in doing those tasks. And listen, a lot of VPNs that you may use are usually kind of sluggish whenever you're connecting to another server. That makes sense. I will tell you from personal experience, Nord is gotten faster and faster as time has gone on. I'm not kidding. There are times where I'm surfing, I'm like, oh my God, did I forget to turn Nord on? I'll go and it's automatically on. It is a very handy tool in your pocket to get the most out of your internet experience and the best safety you can get. So listen, if you want to make sure that your internet experience is yours and not anyone else's, and if you like me talking about things on the internet and you're like, oh, I want to see him more, he seems cool, go to nordvpn.com/Zed and you can get a 2-year plan at an incredible discount. Plus, you get 4 additional months free. And there's no risk because Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied. But you will be because it's cool. So listen, take control of your internet experience, nordvpn.com/Zed, Z-A-I-D, and get the most out of the web. All right, back to Zed Talks. All right, now let's move on to Furiosa and Hollywood's box office problem. So Furiosa, the critically acclaimed prequel starring Anya Taylor-Joy to the critically acclaimed Mad Max Fury Road, opened in theaters last week. Its only major competition is Garfield, starring Chris Pratt, and my biopic, which will also star Chris Pratt. I'm just assuming he's in fucking everything. But going into Memorial Day weekend, after one of the biggest, most impactful strikes in Hollywood history, Furiosa was supposed to rack in about $40 to $60 million against a $168 million budget, which would give it enough leeway to really pick up momentum and do some damage. It did not reach those numbers. In fact, over the weekend, Furiosa only raked in $25 million, with an estimated $31 million at the end of Monday for that whole 4-day weekend. And when it comes to recouping that $168 budget, oh, dude. In fact, its major competition, fucking Garfield got $30 million that weekend. It's fine. It's just got to double its money. It's a $60 million movie, but millions of dollars. Those are large numbers. What does it actually mean? Because these people are playing with the fucking casino money. It means that this is the worst performing Memorial Day weekend for movies in 40 years. That is bad. And listen, I know it's easy to laugh at rich people losing a bunch of money, but not all 168 of those $1 million are going to just rich people. There are thousands of crew members and extras and people who are working in positions you don't even know about who need that money to just make a living. It's a giant company every movie's like a giant company that's built. And the reason that is important is because, again, it's coming at a time where Hollywood is experiencing its biggest gut punch since the giant strike that shut down production for several months for both actors and writers. There was a drought in promotion. There was a drought in movies and ideas and things being greenlit. And if you look all over TikTok, if you look all over social media, dozens of creatives, writers, tech people, not just the big A-list stars. I'm talking about everybody, crew members, grips, people who are catering, all of them are having really difficult times finding work in an industry that's trying to recover and dealing with the onslaught of AI constantly rapidly evolving. The biggest issue in general is just productions are not ramping up as quickly as they could. And plenty of companies are cutting corners, like Netflix and The Hitman, the new Richard Linklater film starring Glenn Powell. It's the true story about an undercover agent who pretends to be a hitman to entrap certain people who are trying to hire hitmen to kill real individuals. It is critically acclaimed. It is a darling, and it is kind of being dropped into theaters in the most uncinematic and ceremonious way and not given the push it deserves before it ends up on streaming in early June. And we've already heard reports earlier this year and late last year about the amount of money that streaming in general is losing. Places like Max, places like Disney Plus. My take on this is, again, a lot of it is still the aftermath of the writer's strike. This is not something that's going to recover tomorrow. My other take on this is that while people think this is a Hollywood problem, it's not just a Hollywood problem. This is just production in general. Media and entertainment in general has a lifeline to dozens of other industries and culture. It's important when you have that there. I do think this is also a transformative time for movies in general, where big budget prestige movies are kind of getting their face kicked in a little bit. I mean, look, movies like Monkey Man and The Fall Guy and Civil War, there's so many movies that have come out this year that I didn't expect to be these big events, but it's one of those things where it's showing what a lot of people are craving. They're craving fresh ideas. And I know people have said that a lot when they talk about Marvel movies, but in general, the entire movie industry has just kind of rested on its laurels with big budget tentpole films in theaters. And now that movies are becoming more of a social experience, and now that we've been deprived of any sort of social experience for movies from a year where production kind of shut down, people want to see cool new shit. And yeah, you'll have Godzilla versus Kong and Deadpool versus Wolverine, which is going to do really, really well, almost certainly. But the movies really pulling the weight over the last few months have been movies with really fucking interesting ideas, like Challengers. Like that was like a big movie event that I saw a lot of people talking about. So again, I think it is a really challenging time in the industry. I don't think people should just make fun of it, because again, it's not just big A-list Hollywood actors. A lot of people are suffering through this, but I also think that it doesn't mean the end of movies, and that there will be an upswing eventually. And from what I hear, Furiosa is an incredible movie, so you should go see it. I'm gonna go take a look at it. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you feel like the theater experience is something that you really still enjoy, or you feel like it's in decline. And last but not least, let's talk about Drake. Oh, hey buddy, how you doing? Now listen, I know it may sound crazy, but I don't think Drake's been having a great couple of months. And there's a lot of different, like pieces of evidence you can point to. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I do think that maybe when you do a guest verse on another album and it's over a beat where they accuse you of having plastic surgery for a fake ass, that's probably indicative that your career's not in a great place right now. But yeah, most recently, Drake rapped over BBL Drizzy on Sexy Red's new album because he believes he sees two bad bitches. And that was kind of mixed reception, right? But you could kind of see where Drake was trying to all right, I'm shifting the narrative. Even being brought out at 21 Savage's show recently, which he had a really nice welcome response. Until another thing leaked. Okay, so a few days after the beef was settled with the Hard Part 6 not doing what it needed to do, a reference track for Jumbotron Shit Poppin', a song off Drake's album Her Loss in collaboration with 21 Savage, was leaked online with Lil Yachty rapping throughout the whole thing. And if you don't know what reference tracks are, it's a pretty common industry practice, especially when you're writing songs or collaborating on songs. You'll write out the song and then you'll create a reference track so they can pretty much be like, okay, so this is how it's supposed to sound, this is how it's supposed to be intended. And then the artist can put their own spin on it. I know that sounds kind of weird, but in the pop world, it's actually really, really interesting because pop artists have their own flair and panache they bring to a song and the way they cover it. Trust me, when Beyonce sings a song, she really adds her own flavor to it. That's why sometimes when you'll hear a cover by another artist, it's really, really interesting because there's a whole attitude and charisma and identity that artist is bringing to those lyrics and that sound and that space. So it is a talent. Just because you don't write your own shit doesn't mean you don't have talent there. And as somebody who writes his own shit and performs his own shit and has also written for other people, I don't want to diminish those artists' contributions, even if I'm the one writing the lyrics and they're the one performing it. I wrote almost all of the songs on the Evo albums, and a lot of those rock songs, even if I'm not the one singing it, I'm not supposed to be the one singing it. They bring a grit and an identity with their voice to those songs that I could never do. So there's talent there. There's a talent that Drake brings, even if he's working off of a reference track. But it is a reference track. And if you're a hip hop artist and you are using a reference track, fine. That's fine. But you gotta admit it. I saw Royce da 5'9" say this. You don't get to go and say, hey, why the fuck aren't you dropping something right now? Where the fuck are you? When you're using reference tracks and other writers. Because that guy's gotta write his own shit. You got 3 people helping you. Dr. Dre, his albums are filled with ghostwriters. He did not write The Watcher, Jay-Z did. But Dre admits it from jump. Kanye doesn't admit it as much. That's pretty, and he's also fucking crazy. Why am I even bringing this motherfucker up? But anyway, yeah, the Lil Yachty track leaks kind of reinforces that Drake uses ghostwriters. Because the beef was so fresh in everybody's mind, it wasn't that impactful on everybody's opinion. People just like, oh yeah, Drake uses ghostwriters. But the other day, during the same time when 21 Savage brought Drake out, his track Mob Ties leaks. I mean, the reference track to his track Mob Ties leaks, with Vory singing almost all of Drake's lyrics on that song. That is a smoking gun and damning, because if you don't know the context, Mob Ties is a song off the album Scorpion. Scorpion was a big album for Drake. It was something that came out right after Pusha T just demolished him with the story of Adidon and revealed that he had a hidden son. And it was one of the best tracks off of that entire project. But clearly, Drake didn't write it. And the thing was, Vory was credited as a co-writer, as if him and Drake co-wrote the song together, which is technically true. right? Drake does change some of the words in Mob Ties when he raps his own version, which is something that you would normally do. But it doesn't change a ton. Again, not a horrible thing if you're a pop artist and you're having somebody else write for you. That's normal. But the persona and the way you move as a hip hop artist has to be different when that sort of stuff happens. And that's the major debate. And it's pretty split over Twitter. Like, if you are on the Kendrick side of things, you're going to be zeroing in like, oh, he's not a real MC, this is bullshit. And a lot of Drake fans saying like, well, listen, it's still a great song. He still is an artist. Why aren't we giving Vory his flowers? Which is true. Why aren't you giving Vory his flowers? And as a musician, I just wanted to weigh in on what this is. So a couple of things. I think there is some validity to both sides of this. I'm a rapper who doesn't like rapping other people's bars. If it's like a project that requires that somebody has their own vision and they just want to use my voice, sure, we can work that out. But when it comes to my music, I'm rapping my own fucking bars. It's too personal to me. It's an outlet. It's something that's really important to me. And you know, a lot of songwriters feel that same way. They don't want to have somebody else's words in their mouth. And it took me a while when I went to music school to learn that like there is a talent to performance and a talent to songwriting. There is a talent to the way people can change the way a line sounds that's written into something really different. And working on multiple genres of music for the Evo albums and even for the Combo Breaker album, like that has really come into full circle focus for me. But as an MC, I can't personally do that. And if somebody else came up and said they are an MC and a rapper, and somebody else was ghostwriting large parts of their catalog, that would be an issue for me. That doesn't mean they're not a rapper, but it does mean that they do take that into their artistry. That's part of your artistry, which means there has to be a distinction. When you're on some MC shit, you're on some MC shit. They're not in the room with you. That has to be distinguished. And the fact that line, it's hard to tell where that line is a problem. There's a reason a lot of people don't know what is ghostwritten and what is not by Drake. And looking at songwriting credits aren't really a great indicator, because if you know how music works, anytime somebody samples something, they're part of the songwriting like credits now. There's a lot of different rules about who gets songwriting credit. If somebody's in the room and you write a whole verse and they're like, well, I was in the room eating chips and I was with you, they can argue for songwriting credit. I'm not fucking kidding you. There are weird ways people argue that shit. If Drake didn't write Mob Ties, does it make me think of him as less of an artist? No. I already know this guy used reference tracks. I also know that he has written some of his own stuff. And I do trust him less as a worthy source of information when it comes to his artistry. If you're an artist, you're there to try to give an experience to your listeners, and that's of paramount importance. You want people to feel something and vibe with something and be a part of something. And when that is paramount, you have to respect that. But if you're trying to get points about your ingenuity at lyricism and you're not going to reveal what's not yours, that's pretty duplicitous. That's some Thomas Edison-esque shit, not Tesla. Well, okay, now it's kind of like Tesla because of this fucking guy. We like people adding things to the pot in a cipher. That's like some of the best parts about music and art. We don't like when people lie about it. That's fucked up. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. And that's our show for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out Freestyle the News. Go check out last week's Zed Talks. Go check out the Combo Breaker album, which just dropped. I'm super proud of it. There's a lot of stuff on there. Even if you don't like fighting games, we don't necessarily just talk directly about fighting games. It's a very open album you can listen to. It's very personal to me. But anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on Sunday for Freestyle the News. Let's go!